The world is governed by the prestigious Run Candle lineage, a family revered for their supreme swordsmanship. The clan's successors are gifted with extraordinary strength and unmatched skill with the blade, trained from birth to dominate the battlefield and shape the world. Their philosophy revolves around perseverance, conquest, and savoring victory. They are the very essence of survival through strength, and it's into this legendary bloodline that our protagonist, Jinrun Kandal, is born. But unlike his siblings, Jinrun was labeled the clan's biggest failure, a stain on their proud heritage. The weakest swordsman in their history? Think your life's rough? Jinrun's daily life was a walking humiliation reel. His relatives jeered at the mere sight of him with a sword in hand, calling it an insult to their name. These smug, arrogant elitists mocked his every effort, especially when he tried to wield the holy blade, Balasada, a weapon that refused to resonate with him. The bullying didn't stop at words either. His own brother drove a heavy kick into his gut to reinforce just how worthless they thought he was. When he dared reach for his sword, another brother crushed his hand underfoot. They didn't even want him to attempt the path of the sword. Things only got worse when they tore up his handwritten notes, his desperate guide to improving himself, and snapped his sword in half. To them, Jinrun was a disgrace, undeserving of even trying. When Jinrun protested, his brothers beat him down, insisting they were doing it for his own good. Abused and ridiculed on a daily basis, Jin still refused to give up. He clung to the hope that one day, through sheer effort, he could earn their acknowledgement. With that belief, he picked himself up again. But this wasn't the kind of world that rewarded effort with power-ups. In the end, the clan cut him off. Jinrun was cast out, exiled like trash. But fate had other plans. While wandering aimlessly, Jin met a mysterious mentor who revealed a forbidden truth. Jin wasn't talentless. He simply possessed a kind of strength his family hated, the power of magic, a gift that the clan considered taboo. 3 years passed, and Jin threw himself into his magical training. But then one day, shadows enveloped him. From the darkness emerged Sol Dure, and the sovereign of the Shadow Realm. For once, Jinrun's luck flipped. This godlike being chose him as a contractor, granting him immunity to curses and control over shadow energy. Sol Dure discovered the truth behind Jinrun's failure. See, he'd been cursed since childhood. The affliction, known as Blade's Delusion, suppressed any talent for swordsmanship, a slow death sentence for a member of the Runkendel clan. The god lifted the curse and proclaimed that Jin would rise as a peerless swordsman. Eager to test his newfound freedom, Jin seized his sword and unleashed a clean, fluid strike. It was unlike anything he'd ever felt. His technique was now precise, powerful. Finally, everything he had worked toward was beginning to blossom. Not only was he a skilled swordsman, but his magical prowess elevated his power even further. But just as things seemed to turn in his favor, disaster struck. Jin was ambushed and brutally defeated. In his final breath, his body crushed beneath debris, he questioned the very reason he was given a second chance. As everything faded to black, he found himself waking up again. Only this time, he was a child, in his old home, surrounded by the family that once cast him out. He stood in the sacred sword chamber once again, facing the Balasada. This time, he grasped the weapon of his own accord, and to his amazement, the clan praised him. Jin realized he had traveled back over 2 decades into the past. He had been reborn with his memories intact. 6 years passed since he first touched the Balasada. Now, he lived confined within the storm castle. 3 more years remained until he could leave this prison-like fortress. But life in the castle wasn't quiet. One day, a maid screamed in horror after discovering a dead bird in Jin's room. Jin quickly deduced the culprits, his twisted younger brothers, Daytona and Haytona, both 9 years old. They stood outside, snickering at their cruelty. In Jin's previous life, these two would go on to become murderers. Even now, as children, their cruelty showed. They had killed a bird just to mock their brother. The vicious pair taunted Jin, mocking him once more for not wielding the Balasada. But this time, Jin was different. When Haytona lunged at him, Jin effortlessly blocked the strike and landed a counterblow that floored him. Even holding back, Jin handed his brother a humiliating defeat. He didn't stop there. Jin warned them, stay out of his way. When their caretaker Khan arrived and saw the aftermath, Jin played it off, claiming the brothers had fought each other. Khan, concerned, wanted to call for a healer, but Jin refused. Instead, he dragged the twins out into the cold, leaving them exposed to a harsh storm as punishment. It was cruel, but Jin believed it necessary, a harsh lesson they needed. Khan hesitated, but obeyed. He sensed something dark and unfamiliar in the young master, a chilling energy that didn't belong in a boy his age. Suspicious of Jin's growing power, Khan decided it was time to inform the clan patriarch. Watching the man move to report him, Jin wasn't surprised. Khan had always been a loyal dog to the family and a reliable informant. Jin quickly realizes what Khan must have picked up on, a faint trace of shadow energy. That dark force, the source of his newfound power granted through the pact with the god of shadows, had likely leaked out. This confirms something vital. Even in his new life, his shadow affinity remains active, shielding him from the curse that had crippled him in his previous existence. With that affliction lifted, the tale of Jinrun Kandal, the clan's greatest failure, is now being rewritten. And this time, it's a legacy worth being proud of. But his joy is short-lived. Word of his strange abilities has reached the highest authority, his father, the clan patriarch. After receiving Khan's report, the patriarch orders the summoning of all flag-bearers. A formal meeting is imminent. 200 of the Runkindel family's most elite knights assemble in formation. The legendary head of the household begins his march towards Storm Castle. Elsewhere, Mary is baffled by the abrupt command. Her comrade, Dyphus, is equally puzzled. The two had been in the middle of a training battle when the order came. Diffus suspects the reason might involve Jin, though neither can piece together why the patriarch would be taking such a personal interest in him. Luna hushes them. She seems to sense something deeper is unfolding. Mary, however, remains unconvinced. She's still not buying into all the whispers about Jin's miraculous improvement. Back at the castle, a maid informs Jin of the patriarch's approach. He can only wonder how much Khan spilled. He assumes that his father must have been intrigued by the unfamiliar power he used, something that was clearly neither mana nor aura. Now, the patriarch must decide whether this anomaly poses a threat or an opportunity. When the patriarch arrives, he's flanked by his knights, his sacred blade at his side. Without ceremony, he calls for Haytona and Daytona. Once they're brought forward, he questions them about the incident. The brothers put on their usual fake smiles and blame Jin, claiming he attacked them with some kind of magic. It's a weak attempt to frame him, and the patriarch sees right through it. Without raising his voice, he cuts them down with cold, harsh truth. Their behavior will be the reason they're forgotten within the clan. They're too soft to carry the Runkindel name. Then, with little regard, he demands Jin's presence. Jin enters the chamber with calm composure, standing before his father, Kirin Runkandel, the clan's supreme leader, and a warrior so powerful he's recognized as a divine star knight, a demigod in the eyes of many. His original life was filled with scorn from this man, who saw no value in him. But things are different now. Jin walks with confidence, the memory of his past life giving him strength and purpose. As he kneels, the assembled flag-bearers exchange curious glances. Kirin narrows his eyes, asking why Jin addressed him as patriarch rather than father. Jin respectfully replies that such a title seemed more appropriate in the presence of others. Kirin proceeds to ask the same question he asked the twins. Jin clenches his fist, recalling his clan's values. He tells his father plainly, their error was rooted in vengeance, or rather their failure to execute it correctly. In the Runkindel clan, revenge isn't just tolerated. It's a tradition, even if it's between brothers. Hearing this, Kirin commands everyone, knights and flag-bearers alike, to leave. The others are stunned. Jin, of all people, had passed a test they didn't even realize was taking place. As the heavy door shuts, Kirin faces Jin alone. He cuts straight to the point with the use of magic. He reminds Jin that relying on magic compromises the purity of a swordsman's path. Then comes the real test. He asks where Jin's power originates. If Jin's abilities are born from mana, punishment will follow. Jin considers his options carefully. Telling the truth, that his strength comes from the god of shadows, could be seen as blasphemy. He opts for a safer route, admitting he doesn't fully understand his own power. To back up his words, he demonstrates a fraction of the shadow force. That's when Kirin's expression changes. He recognizes it, that force. It had once belonged to the founder of the Runkindel bloodline. Stunned, Kirin realizes his son is not only compatible with the Balasada, but also with the ancient and forbidden power of shadows.